This video is on technology-based attacks. There are various attacks that network admins should be aware of. First, we have denial of service and distributed denial of service attacks. DDoS attacks are designed to tie up network bandwidth and resources and eventually bring the entire network to a halt. This type of attack is done simply by flooding a network with more traffic than it can handle. When more than one computer is used in the attack, it is technically known as DDoS attack. These attacks typically use Botnet to launch a command and control attack through a traffic spike. Almost every attack of this type today is DDoS. This attack is not designed to steal data, but rather to cripple a network, and in doing so cost the company a huge amount of money. And there are numerous types of DDoS attack like Fraggle, Ping, Buffer, ICMP, and SynFlood. Botnet attack is any attack leveraging a botnet, a group of bots and devices linked together to perform a SAM task for distribution and scaling. Botnet attacks are used by criminals to carry out intense scrapping, DDoS, and other large-scale cybercrime. Most botnets have a centralized command and control architecture, although P2P botnets are on the rise due to their decentralized nature, which offers more control to the threat actors. Then we have on-path attack. This is previously known as man in the middle. An on-path attack has an attacker that sits in between two stations and is able to intercept and in some cases change that information that's being sent interactively across the network. This type of attack that can occur without anyone knowing that someone is sitting in mid of the conversation. Then we have DNS poisoning. DNS poisoning is when DNS server is given information about a name server that it thinks is legitimate when it isn't. This type of attack can send users to a website other than the one which they wanted to go to. They can also reroute email and do any other type of redirection wherein data from a DNS server is used to determine a destination. Another name for this is DNS spoofing. Then we have VLAN hopping. VLAN hopping is a computer security exploit, a method of attacking network resources on a VLAN. It is an exploit of resources on VLAN that is made possible because the resources exist on said VLAN. There is more than one method by which this occurs, but in all of them the result is the same. An attacking host on a VLAN gains access to resources on other VLANs that are not supposed to be accessible to them. Regardless of the method employed, the solution is to properly configure switches to keep this from happening. Then we have ARP spoofing. The media access control address of the data is faked. When this value is fake, it is possible to make it look as if the data came from a network that it did not. The technique can be used to gain access to the network, for router into sending data that was intended for another host, or to launch a DDoS attack. In all cases, address being faked is an address of a legitimate user, and that makes it possible to get around such measures as allow deny lists. Then we have rogue DHCP. Rogue DHCP server added to a network has the potential to issue an address to a client, isolating it on an unauthorized network where its data can be captured. Then we have rogue access point. Rogue access point is a wireless access point that has been placed on the network without admin's knowledge. The result is that it is possible to remotely access the rogue access point because it likely does not adhere to the company's security policies. Security can be compromised by a cheap wireless router placed on the corporate network. Evil twin attack is one which rogue wireless access point poses as a legitimate wireless service provider to intercept information that users transmit. Then we have ransomware, which is often delivered through a Trojan horse. It takes control of a system and demands that a third party pay something. The control can be accomplished by encrypting the hard drive, by changing user password information, or via any number of other creative ways. Users are usually assured that paying extortion amount, they will be given the code needed to revert their systems back to normal operations. Then we have password attacks. The most common ones are brute force and dictionary attack. Brute force is just you guessing until you get it right. Dictionary attack uses a pre-selected library of words and phrases to guess possible password. Then we have MAC and IP spoofing. While the real MAC address can't be changed, it is possible for drivers to give values provided to them and fool a system into believing that the NIC it is talking to has the MAC address of a recognized authorized host. IP spoofing does a similar action with IP address rather than the MAC address. Then we have deauthentication. This is disassociation attack. With this type of attack, the intruder sends a frame to the access point with a spoof address to make it look like it came from a victim, but disconnects the user from the network because the victim is unable to keep connection with the access point. This attack increases the chance of victim choosing to use another access point. Then we have malware. This is an encompassing term. It encompasses many types of malicious software, and all were intended by the developers to have adverse effect on the network.